Hey everyone, what's going on? Back here again for another video. I've been a little bit lazy and I still haven't got the spine photo on the wall, but we're going to get there eventually. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about a personal experience as to why I'm here today, why I've gotten to this point in terms of my own journey from a physical fitness standpoint, but also how it's sort of shaped my career in the physiotherapy, rehab, strength and conditioning world. So I guess we have to take a step back. I started off getting into fitness to help me with sport, but I also really disliked when I was younger that I was really lanky, skinny, and just generally a thin guy. And I always liked the thought of going to the gym and went to the gym, and I really enjoyed training. I enjoyed lifting. I still did plenty of conditioning and I enjoyed that as well. I just enjoyed all aspects of training. I've never really been into strength sports like powerlifting, CrossFit, strongman, Olympic weightlifting. I enjoy, again, watching those sports, but I don't follow them closely. I've never been into it. I just loved the strength and conditioning side of training to help me with other aspects of life. But eventually this became an issue for me because I just got so fixated on just chasing getting better at particularly strength. I always felt like I was weak compared to everyone else, and I always felt like everyone else just didn't have to train that hard compared to me to get better. And my training journey eventually became less about using training to help me get better at other aspects of life, like sport and just being generally physically fit and capable. And it became more about just getting better at the gym so I could be more confident with myself. And I eventually just became so insecure that all of my thoughts were just surrounded by what I'm doing in the gym. Am I strong enough? Am I hitting numbers? Am I eating all my macros properly? Am I sleeping properly? Like, my entire life was just consumed by this thing, which, to be honest, if you want to reach an elite level, you kind of have to be consumed by it. But I wasn't consumed by it in what I would consider more of a healthy way. It was driven by more insecurity rather than peak performance and trying to reach an elite level. And so this became a problem for me because I just got obsessed. Training volume went through the roof because I thought I just had to keep doing more and more and more to get better and better and better. Mental health wise just went down the drain because I was just so fixated on this one aspect of my life. And so this all just kind of snowballed until eventually I got injured and just could not train. So throughout that period, when I look back, I had a reasonable amount of niggles, and this probably went on for a good 5-year period where I was really just training hard and just fixated on everything. It was 5-6 year period, and eventually got injured. I never had what I would consider a major injury that just put me out of training for an extended period of time, but I definitely developed a lot of minor injuries and a lot of niggles that just ended up hanging around for 12, 18 month periods. And there was a period of time there where I would just train through those niggles, and they didn't necessarily get worse, but often then they did, and I'd have to sort of modify what I was doing. But there was a period where, for example, I literally just bent over to pick up dumbbells one day and felt a pop in my lower back. And at the time it didn't hurt, but then eventually it just got stiffer, it got more sore, and I couldn't even bend over to tie my shoes without this low back pain. And that hung around for about 18 months before I could actually start doing things for example, deadlifting off the floor again. And funnily enough, on a side note, I could sumo deadlift, but I just couldn't conventional deadlift. But eventually that one thing led to another, and then that heals up, then my left shoulder starts to bother me, and that hangs around for about 18 months. So I couldn't I couldn't press weight overhead for about 18 months because of this shoulder niggle. And then I recover from that. And then the next step is more just general aches and pains and niggles throughout, just purely because my training load was so high that my body just wasn't recovering. And it wasn't necessarily the problem of one single training session. It was just this accumulation of load over time that I just wasn't offsetting and recovering from. And so because I had this such insecure view of who I was and training was just my thing and I had to be so good at it, I just wasn't able to critically evaluate where my training was at, and it was all emotionally driven, and I just had to keep pushing hard, and then I would never stop, recover, and God forbid I take a holiday, because then I would just not be able to train anymore. And if I did want to train while I was on holidays, then I'd have to go and find a gym to do so, and it would become more of an interruption to what we were trying to do while we were having a break from life, rather than adding to my life. And when I say strength was my main pursuit at that time as well, I also didn't want other aspects of my training to fall down. So I still wanted to be powerful, I wanted to be fast, and I wanted to have a good engine. So I was training all these other modalities on the side while really pursuing strength hard. And like, as I've spoken in other videos, and what really shapes my philosophy around rehab training and just general life, is we're not trying to push all of our eggs into every single basket, because it's just not possible. So, but that was what I was doing at the time. I was trying to put all of my eggs into strength training and all of my eggs into endurance training, but then I was also trying to put all of my eggs into speed training, and then I had a day job, and I had, you know, everything else that everyone else has to deal with in life. But I was trying to put 100% effort into every single aspect, and while you may get away with that for a short period, it just doesn't work, and it's not sustainable long term. So what started for me as this pursuit to get improvements in a sport when I was younger, turning more into a pursuit of just insecurity and more of a mental health issue, it wasn't until I got injured enough so that I had to sit back and reevaluate what I was really doing. And it took me to step back out of training for a good week or two and say, like, I'm not getting results here. I'm feeling beat down, and what I'm chasing, I'm not actually getting anyway. So where's this actually leading me? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is when we're training, we're not using that to try and feed an insecurity to feel better about ourselves. And a lot of people do. Like, I've spoken to other people who have been in the same boat that have literally just used training to fuel like addiction and mental health problems. And I guess like there's things that are potentially more unhealthy out there than training to try and overcome these issues, but trying to cover them up with extra training volume and intensity isn't the way to go about it. Ultimately, we want training to be a really fun and enjoyable process and get a result at the end of it. But when I was training purely just to chase these better, like numbers, times, all of that stuff, I ended up just falling down a hole and not being able to pull myself out of it, because I was so just injured and run down and just mentally burnt out by how much I was doing. And yeah, it was costing me a lot of time. It was costing me a lot of my mental health, and it was ultimately costing the enjoyment of training as well. Like, I got to a point where I just didn't like it anymore. And deep down, I knew that I was training to try and like fix my self-worth. I thought that if I had better numbers in strength, I had better endurance times, I had better speeds across, 20, 40, 60 meters, whatever. I knew that if I thought I could do better at these, not necessarily better than anyone else, but if I sort of considered myself to be elite at all of these, I thought I would feel better about myself. But ultimately, it took me getting injured to then sit back and realize that that wasn't the case, and I was using this to cover up potentially other issues of insecurity that I had about myself. So 5 or 6 years that's cost me, and training's definitely a different outlook for me these days. I don't pursue it in the form of insecurity anymore. It's purely just enjoyment and results-driven objective feedback work. So yeah, if you guys have had similar experiences or issues yourself and you'd like to discuss that, please post in the comments. It's definitely a community that we're trying to build up here and have people enjoy the training process, not getting injured, not having recurring injuries, and being able to, you know, get results and, like I said, enjoy that process ultimately, because that's what this training thing should be all about. Please give it a like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in that next video.